Okay, let's move on to another celebration because the cast of The Fresh Prince of Bel-air celebrated the 30th anniversary of the show on an HBO reunion special. And yes, they included the OG Aunt Viv, Janet Hubert, who explains that she walked away from the show after her role was reduced. She also confronts Will Smith for calling her difficult and saying that is the kiss of death for a Black woman in Hollywood. Will apologized, saying he was only 21 at the time and threatened by everything. But here's the question. What do you think of Will's apology?
Meh. Listen, I just feel like they had to address the elephant in the room because those of us who watched Fresh Prince of Bel-air from the very get-go, it was like kids wondering what the heck happened to your parent and why some new girl came in. And when she says kiss of death, we also have to acknowledge the colorism that also happens in Hollywood too. She is a deeper toned woman. It was the kiss of death. And for her to be labeled as difficult as a Black woman, BIPOC women know this well, is when we advocate and speak up for ourselves, we always get the aggressive, she's angry, she's hard to work with. Whereas, you know, with white women, they're labeled as ambitious, someone that knows their worth. So I completely understand and agree with where she is coming from. But Will had years and years to do something for this woman, to say something. But as we should already know, Will is a people pleaser. Okay, if you admit that there was wrong done, you're kind of admitting that you were in the wrong or that you were the bad guy. And I think Will was just more concerned about his image at the time.
Like, that was what I was going to say is, like, it's been 27 years. So this hasn't been on his mind at all in 27 years that, you know what, maybe he's had a moment where he's had an epiphany of some sort. Pick up the phone, be the bigger person. He was the boss after all. And it speaks to power and privilege. But I also wondered, where was the rest of the cast? I mean, it's like she was a woman unto herself on that. And she was going through a hard time. She was pregnant. She was in an abusive marriage with an unemployed husband. I mean, you say that today and people would just rally around her. So I'm just curious where and why there was such silence from the cast, either in the reunion special, but especially back then. Where were her friends and where were her allies?
We know where they were, Mel. Will. That's the answer.
That's the paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. What happened to Janet is that, like, you know, her, as she says, her career was ruined. She didn't work much. And so, you know, to Jess's point, when Jess said, you said he was 21 and he's arguing that at 21 he made mistakes. Well, he's had 30 years to recover. But when a mistake that you didn't make happens to you, and you're a Black actress, you're Janet, you don't have a career anymore. Those are stolen dreams. What is the cost of a stolen dream? And how do you get it back? How do you get it repaid? And it reminds me of, for example, Louis C.K., when it was exposed that he was exposing himself and the people that he harassed. A lot of people were like, not really a big deal, not totally the same as, say, for example, a Harvey Weinstein. There may not have been physical violence to Louis C.K.'s victims. But the kind of violence that was, underway there is that those people were turned away from their careers and their dreams. They were blacklisted by powerful Louis C.K. and his management. And what happened is that they had to reassess their entire lives. They thought, those women, they would be in comedy. Instead, they had to give that all up. What is the cost of that? You can't take that to court. But imagine the bitterness that you have to live with for like 30 years, seeing your life go away. I don't know how I could do it.
No, it's great points. And I will say that there's 2020 conversations that now, if you think back, obviously were not happening about then, and that's specifically intersectionality. This whole thing is that she says herself, Janet says, that she was a dark-skinned Black woman. And so when you start to add layers that she was a woman, so there is gender bias, then you add race bias, and then you add colorism to all of that. When you, these are discussions we're having only kind of now in 2020, not in 1993. And so if you look back, this is a story we now know of. How many hundreds thousands, hundreds of thousands of women are kind of victims to a system that we are only waking up to now in terms of inequities.
Well, Kathy on Facebook wrote us, and she said, I think had the cast had any idea what she was going through in her personal life, things may have been very different. Without this knowledge, she most likely did come across as difficult. I don't think Will would have understood at that time how saying that about a Black woman could affect her career. I get what you're saying, Kathy. I understand that sometimes this story is a great reminder for remembering that we don't always know what's going on in someone else's life, in their personal life. And if we knew, or if we bothered to ask, it might change our perception or our reading, I guess, of their behavior. I have a memory of over a decade ago, one of my good friends, I was in my early 30s, and every time we got together, she kept bringing up studies about fertility and saying, you know, around your age, it starts to drop. You got to start thinking about these things. And I'd be like, I'd kind of nod and brush it off and say, I'm not interested in having that kind of discussion. You know, I don't really know what my future plans are, and thought that would be enough to sort of close the case. But every time she would bring it up, and it got so bad that I had anxiety even talking to her about it until like 5 years had passed, and it made me upset because it was affecting our friendship. And so I talked to her about it. And the thing is, she felt terrible, of course, but I felt worse after the conversation because she explained she was trying to have a second baby and was struggling with fertility. She was trying to talk to me about it, and I didn't get the hints, and I was only thinking about myself and was struggling with accepting the fact that this was a path I didn't think I wanted to walk down. It sounds really hokey, but communication, just, you know, talk. Here's
the thing. I think lame, but it's true. In that situation, Jess, I completely understand. Like, of course, we don't know what's going on in people's private lives, and communication is key. I think with Janet's example and Fresh Prince, in terms of the acting community, every actor understands how difficult it is to go through the audition process, how it's a crapshoot, the industry. It's about luck. And when you are lucky enough to land on a hit show, and it is the most watched show, and it is making money, you don't walk away from that show. If you're an actor and you see another actor who's not like getting movie offers left, right, and center, who says, yeah, no, I'm just not going to do this anymore, I don't know if I buy the argument or excuse that the other actors wouldn't have known. Any actor wants to get paid and wants to be on camera.
Too,
so I'm sorry, Kathy, but I don't think that is an accurate representation of that situation.
And we know how the saying goes, assuming makes a bleep out of you and me, Will.